You've done so much, I'm going to give you all I've got, everything I've got. I wouldn't give it to anybody else. I saved it for you because I want you to have it. Every one of you. You know what it is? I'm going to be your mayor for the next 20 years.
Harold Washington used to say that he would serve in this city as mayor for 20 years. And he said it so often with such enthusiasm that we all believed it.
It was if your mother, father, grandfather, husband, and brother all died on the same day at the same time.
Well, I'm not over it yet, and it's been 20 years. Harold was obviously something that we never dreamed of, a black mayor in the city of Chicago. And it's hard for people to even envision that 20 years later.
And when I looked out there and saw older people on the road holding up signs, holding up front pages of newspapers, heralding his historic election, and people waving at all of us en route to the Oakwood burial ground, it told me what he really meant to the masses. This was Harold Washington. This was one of us, a boy from nowhere.
Many dreams and aspirations came tumbling down. A great deal of anger came in the aftermath of it, a great deal of grief, and we still feel it. And I'm hopeful that through this particular project, we'll be able to bring some closure.
He came along and he allowed people to speak out. I'm talking of people of all colors, white, black, brown, to Asiatic, to speak out, gave them a sense of personal power. That to me is his great contribution.
Prior to Harold Washington, women in government, by and large, would head up maybe the Human Services Department, and certainly the Office of Child Care. That was seen as a woman's job. The notion that you would have a woman corporation counsel, a woman chief of staff, a woman budget director, a woman in charge of the Department of Streets and Sanitation, the garbage trucks, the motor truck drivers, that was unheard of.
What he did, in fact, was redress the imbalance that had existed before he was elected, and put people of color and women into jobs where previously white males only need apply.
I think that we will never go back to an all-white city government or an all-white CHA board or any other board in the city of Chicago. He brought in African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, and Arab Americans into the life of city government.
I'm one of the people to whom he gave opportunity. I served in his administration as Commissioner of Consumer Services. Nobody would have thought that this person, who had previously been a public aid recipient with 4 children, who had raised them all on the west side of the city of Chicago, would wind up being a commissioner in charge of environmental protection and many other services that that department offered. But there I was.
He also educated many folk who had some very strange, but maybe not so strange, conceptions of black people. He had an eloquence that was unmatched, a vocabulary, and a choice of language that could simplify and at the same time astound people.
The 2 greatest achievements of Harold Washington was the formation of the first Department of Cultural Affairs, and secondly, giving Chicago the first cultural plan in its history, participated in by 10,000 people.
His greatest achievement was becoming the mayor of Chicago. I never thought he would make it, and yet I supported him every election that he ever was in.
Historically, people didn't vote too much in the African-American community, but now they vote in large numbers. That's because of Harold Washington.
The only reason Harold Washington was elected the first time is because of a massive voter registration drive and a great turnout.
This is a miniature voting booth, and it is given to me by Harold Washington. We had our people go from door to door and show people how to vote. I had 3 of these.
Every vote counted, and it made a difference for people to come out to vote. And they could participate, and there were things for children to do too. Kids passed out literature, they passed out buttons, they wore buttons, they told the parents what to do, how to vote, and so forth. So no matter how young they were, they could still participate.
We had political education classes, and we graduated more than 2,000 people who had never been involved in politics before.
Is politics beanbag?
No, it's not beanbag.
Softball?
It's not softball. It's
hardball?
Hardball.
And I guess one would have to draw the analogy between Harold Washington and someone like Jackie Robinson, for instance, or the difference that Jackie Robinson made to baseball.
Harold's greatest achievement was his ability to mobilize such a range of people in such a fervent way to make such a difference. But for that, he would not have been mayor, and the achievements of his administration would not have occurred.
When we were growing up, there was always this tension, this division, this hatred between various ethnic groups where you couldn't even walk in some sections of the city. But blacks couldn't walk. But now it's changed entirely.
And I think that Chicago is a better place and that people are more tolerant.
He saw everybody out of the same eye. And even regardless to your color, your origin, your whatever, he saw everybody the same. He was African American, but he wasn't an African American mayor. He was a mayor.
He brought light into areas of government that you can never remove. There's always going to be budget hearings now. There's always going to be an opportunity to speak out about the issues. There's always going to be an opportunity to see what this government is doing.
He sacrificed his own life in the way he worked so hard every day. He fought these battles that many of us would never want to have to be in the middle of. He was called horrible things, but he did that because he believed in a better Chicago, and a Chicago that represented room for everybody, not just the few.
He didn't live that 20 years that he talked about, but his legacy will live much longer than that.
We just want a fair share for all the people in this city. Now, I happen to be talking to a black audience, but you understand I've got to be fair to everybody. And I will be fair to everybody, but I'm going to insist that for the first time, the city is fair to you. Are you with me? I got a witness. I better quit while I'm ahead. Certainly, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell on the 5th floor of City Hall. Thank you. I'm going to give you all I've got, everything I've got. I wouldn't give it to anybody else. I saved it for you because I want you to have it. Every one of you. You know what it is? I'm going to be your mayor for the next 20 years.
It was unprecedented. It wasn't just another man dying, or another famous man, another rock star, another singer, a dancer. This was Harold Washington. This was one of us.